Say hello to croquet swing training for the 21st century, a new approach to an old problem. What you've just seen assembled and demonstrated is a revolutionary new swing trainer that helps overcome problems players have struggled with for decades: twisting of the mallet and sideways movement of the mallet on the backswing. Traditional swing trainers like these were invented back in the last century. They consisted of two massive plywood sheets nearly 2.4 metres or 8 feet long, carved into curves and spaced just wider than a head. Yes, they worked, brilliantly in fact, because they helped the original inventor, Reg Bamford, become perhaps the greatest player of all time. But look at them. They're enormous, cumbersome, and difficult to transport and store. My invention attacks the same problem, but from the opposite end, the handle instead of the head. The head of a mallet traces a semicircular arc nearly 2.4 metres long, but the hands only trace a 500mm quarter circle arc. It weighs just 3 kilograms, fits in a small bag, and assembles in under a minute. But the real breakthrough isn't just its portability. Traditional trainers have a couple of critical flaws, not that affected Reg. Even at just 5mm wider than a 300mm long mallet head, they still allow 1 full degree of rotation. That represents a miss at just 6 yards. But there's an even bigger problem: hand positioning. I discovered recently that when I address the ball, the top of the shaft is under my left eye rather than under my nose, meaning the mallet is leaning around 2 degrees left. When I swing, gravity and centrifugal force pull the mallet vertical, resulting in an off-centre hit. It's clearly visible in this video. If I practice in a traditional swing trainer, there's nothing to keep the mallet vertical. I could swing for hours with a tilted mallet and build perfect muscle memory for the wrong technique. As soon as I leave the trainer, the original problem will still exist, causing off-centre hits and missed shots. Watch this precision test. I'm going to swing the mallet between these two blocks that are 10mm or 3/8 of an inch wider than the mallet head. I'll position this paper at the end of the backswing. The lines are just 5mm wider than the head. That demonstrates that it achieves everything that traditional trainers achieve, but in addition, it prevents the hands moving sideways off the aiming line, it prevents swinging with a tilted mallet, it prevents any rotation of the head whatsoever, it prevents damage to the mallet head by constantly rubbing on the sides of the swing trainer. It's very portable, it only takes a minute to assemble, and it can be made by anyone with basic construction skills. It has 2 downsides. You have to install a threaded insert in the top of the mallet shaft, and it can't be used outdoors. It can still be used to hit balls, as long as you put some padding on the opposite wall, or make one of the automatic ball capture and return devices that I'll be demonstrating in another video shortly. The purpose of hitting balls from a swing trainer isn't to see if you can hit a distant target, because you can't miss. It's to train the muscles to smoothly transition from a circular arc to an oval-shaped arc as the mallet approaches the ball. And you can do that just as easily inside as outside. In fact, it is more convenient, as you can see. The design and construction of it wasn't guesswork. I spent countless hours analysing high-speed swing footage frame by frame and using 3D modelling to map the precise arcs traced by both hands and mallet head and the angles of the mallet at all points in the swing. The challenge was designing a frame that eliminated the undesirable aspects of a swing, such as head rotation and sideways drift, whilst accommodating the essential deviations of the mallet from a perfectly circular path, such as when the mallet lifts at the start of the backswing to allow the front edge to clear the ground. That need led to the creation of the precisely dimensioned double hinge system, but it came with its own challenges, such as a tendency to jackknife the wrong way during the forward swing. That was overcome by carefully designing lead counterweights that keep the frame moving away from the hands at just the right speed during the forward swing, holding the hinge in correct alignment without altering the swing dynamics. The frame is essentially weightless as far as the hands are concerned. Mount the device with the hinge pivot at shoulder height when in your normal stance, and then mark it for future reference. For a normal swing, the mallet should be positioned so that the double hinge is vertical. If you start your swing by pulling the top of the shaft back slightly, like Reg, move the mallet slightly further forward to begin with, so the hinge is vertical after tilting the mallet back. The best part is you can build one yourself for around $100. I'll now show you exactly how to build one yourself. The beauty of this design is its simplicity. A length of aluminium tubing, a standard pull-up bar, and a carefully engineered double hinge system based on standard aluminium door hinges that allows the mallet to move naturally while preventing the errors that ruin your game. The double hinges should be epoxied to the stiffening plate. Pop rivets will weaken it and prevent the hinges closing fully. The hinges must have tight nylon bushes or ball bearing inserts like these. Normal hinges are no good as they have too much play. This double hinge is 60mm between pivot points. Increasing it to 70mm would allow slightly more vertical movement for the initial pullback, but it may be necessary to stiffen it by using a 6mm aluminium plate or two 3mm plates epoxied together to prevent any twisting that would allow sideways movement of the head. The plate length will be the distance between the hinge pivots, less 10mm. The muffler clamps must be attached to the end bars, which are strong. If you clamp them to the middle section, it will crush the pipe. If you change to a different doorway width, you need to loosen and move one of the clamps. When removing and reinserting in the same doorway, the 2 to 3mm of sideways movement isn't a problem. Just make sure the frame is the same width top and bottom when the chin-up bar is in the expanded position. The main bars are 25mm diameter, but don't buy 25mm muffler clamps or the support struts won't fit in between the U-bolt nuts. Position the clamps closer to one side than the other to avoid the frame hitting the open door. It is essential that the main pivot have no play in it. The bearing washers should be one size smaller than the bolts and be drilled out to the exact size. Drill them in a vise first, or you risk tearing them off the epoxy. The pivot bolts must have shanks, not be all threaded, so they pivot properly. They must be fastened tightly to the support strut with a nut inside and out so there is no play. To make the frame size adjustable, multiple main hinge pivot holes can be drilled, with washers epoxied to each side of each hole to act as bushes. The lead counterweight should be sized to still provide a lifting force with the bolt in the hole closest to the pivot, or provide some bolt-on extra counterweight. The connected fittings I used are not designed to be regularly pulled apart and reassembled. As an alternative, get two 100 by 100mm by 1.6mm thick aluminium plates, cut them across the diagonals and cut them to this shape. They are pop riveted to the ends of the crossbar each side, and the side bars then get bolted on using wing nuts. Normal angle brackets do not provide a sufficiently stiff joint. The connected fittings are fine for the extension counterbalances, but they don't come in a straight connector, so I just used T-joiners and cut off the T-piece. I then filed down the ridges slightly on one end so they were easier to insert and pull apart. You cannot do that with the corner joints to make them more easily removable, as they need to be very rigid. Drill a hole slightly larger than the insert. Don't try to screw it in or you'll split the shaft. The hole has to be countersunk for the top of the insert. The insert needs to be stainless steel. They can be bought on AliExpress. Make sure it fits. It needs to sit perfectly flush with the surface. You need to stick it in place with some araldite, but you don't want to get the araldite down in the hole, so you put the screw in. As soon as you epoxy it in, take the screw almost right out and check from both sides to make sure it is exactly vertical. If your mallet has a hollow shaft, it's not a problem. Push some paper wadding down the shaft about 15 millimetres. Use a 20 mil long threaded insert and 5-minute araldite or other epoxy so it doesn't slump. Fasten a large washer or piece of aluminium with a hole in it between the insert and screw with a piece of plastic bag under it. Coat the inside of the shaft and the insert with epoxy. When you push it in, the washer will rest against the top of the shaft and keep the screw vertical. A longer screw makes it easier to check. Make sure it's perfectly centred. The threaded shaft insert serves a dual purpose. It can be used with this swing trainer, and it can also be used with the electronic swing monitor that I developed and that is described in a separate video. You stick some Velcro to a small piece of aluminium and screw it to the end of the shaft. Then attach the swing monitor to it. Happy practicing.